Hello, I'm the Reverend Mary Koppel from St. Thomas Episcopal Church here in Diamond Head. Once again, I am here with a small portion, a little piece, a tiny course on our Catechism in the Episcopal Church. And I pull my topics from our Catechism, from our outline of faith, found in the back of our Book of Common Prayer. Each week I like to give just a little bit of taste about our faith and understanding our faith, and in a hope to help us ask more questions so that we may dive deeper and so that we'll ask more questions. Last week we talked about sin and redemption. This week our topic is God the Son. We find this on page 849 of the Book of Common Prayer. And we will also do the New Covenant, these two topics that are in our Catechism. God the Son. Here's the question. What do we mean when we say that Jesus is the only Son of God? The answer, we mean that Jesus is the only perfect image of the Father and shows us the nature of God. What is the nature of God revealed in Jesus? God is love. Well, that says it all. And it is an absolutely beautiful description. Now, as the questions go on, it tells us a little bit more about Jesus. And let's face it, Jesus is the reason we are here. Jesus is the reason I'm here. Jesus. It's that story. The story of a child born in a manger to Mary, his mother. And the Father, well, the Most High, that he grows up, becomes a man, gathers around him followers. He teaches them. He preaches to them. He heals. He saves. And then he gets on the wrong side of the law. And he is crucified. When we think the story is over there, nope. 3 days later, he rises from the dead. That is it. And from there, our story begins to take off. And that is what we're talking about today. We continue with these questions. I'm just going to skip into these questions. Why did he take our human nature? The divine Son became human so that in him human beings might be adopted as children of God and be made heirs of God's kingdom. We're talking about in particular God becoming human so that the God who creates us, who sustains us, who inspires us, who cares for us, decides that's not enough. He so desperately wants that relationship with us, he becomes one of us. I heard a long time ago there was a great description of it. It's the image of the person caring for the fish in the fish tank. And the caretaker's trying to make the fish as comfortable as possible. He's got a huge fish tank. He's placed in it wonderful plants, great rocks on the bottom. He's dropping food in from the top. He's changing out the water when it's dirty. But he doesn't really know if the fish are happy. So, how would he know unless he becomes one of us? Kind of a radical thought. Now, as it goes on, we have this side of God becoming one of us, and in a sense that's drawing our humanity into the divine and infusing the divinity with our humanity. There's another part to this as well. What's the great importance of Jesus' suffering and death? By his obedience, even to suffering and death, Jesus made the offering which we could not make. In him we are freed from the power of sin and reconciled to God. Now, I know people are uncomfortable with sin and talking about sin. I know people sometimes are uncomfortable talking about the cross of Jesus. But How we understand it is that Jesus is crucified on the cross, and that crucifixion is also a sacrifice. Maybe not so much a blood sacrifice to God, but maybe a sacrifice to you and to me. He makes an oath with his very life, in his very blood, to us. But also, those sins, those things which distract us and keep us from a relationship to God, are swept away in this saving work that he does. It can be very confusing. That's okay. It's meant to make you ask more questions. Now, as we move on, we get to the new covenant. What is the new covenant? The new covenant is the new relationship with God given by Jesus Christ the Messiah to the apostles and through them to all that believe in him. What did the Messiah promise in the new covenant? Christ promised to bring us into the kingdom of God and give us life in all its fullness. What response did Christ require? Christ commanded us to believe in him and to keep his commandments. What are the commandments taught by Christ? Christ taught us the summary of the law and gave us the new commandment. What is the summary of law? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. What is the new commandment? The new commandment is that we love one another as Christ loved us. And where may we find what Christians believe about Christ? What Christians believe about Christ is found in the scriptures and summed up in the creeds. So, what's the point here? The very center of our faith. Why we're doing what we're doing, why we believe what we believe, is because of the person of Jesus Christ. The person who is also God. God becomes flesh, becomes one of us, lives as one of us, dies like one of us. And through that death, those things that separated us from God, from relationship with God, are wiped away. And what does Jesus ask? Believe in him and keep his commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love the Lord your God. Love one another. Well, it's a lot to think about, the very center of our faith. I hope that this gave you a taste. I hope that this makes you go a little bit deeper, helps you crack open the Bible, read it for yourself. If you want a quick gospel to read, read Mark. It's a snappy gospel. I hope that you have a wonderful day. God bless you and keep you. Keep learning.